Okay, we'll get started slowly. Jumbo, Jolene, Dishin, Shewanda, Jumbo, Yandambar, Zobe, Sange, Ribota, Shabda, Demba, Deora, Shebo, Chitin, Kimba, Givu, Due, Kalu, Lana, Meba, Lana, Menange, Jumba, Sange, Jonden, Debe, Yawa, Shaya, Tupala, Shadu, Judo, Jazu, Jumbo, Jolene, Dishin, Shewanda, Jumbo, Yandambar, Zobe, Sange, Ribota, Shabda, Demba, Deora, Shebo, Chitin, Kimba, Givu, Kalo juba lana meba ada mena ke juba sangi jomde peja wa shaja tuba na chaza no chodo jaze jomba jomde de jin shaba da jomba yanda bar sobe sangi riba da shazu demba dewara sheba jide jemba ke Kalo juba lana meba ada mena ke tuba sange jonde peje wa shaja tuba la chaza tudo jazu je maze gane zo wo jedam la gumba dumbo ne ngane jinde de na chode son teze ke wa jela jaza Namda Goma Shodu Zudang Wa Yeshe Gasu Serge Humbora Taba Jidin Sona Name Wa Humbo Chuni Jula Jazu Senjo Demba Jimen Dawe Ja Sendo Chawa Kila Jazu Tendre Juna Siva Suma Ji Nyame Fiji Kila Jazu Gombo tuji jindemba tamji kembe tumba ku sona yedin gyasu jin dejin shela jadu tabe de jadewa gyu gewe nyasu edo dendon juju ba shigyu jima Done drove maya de baga dala Shinje Damba Yundin Den Gindun Layan Yepa Tiam Ejashin, Gewa Pusum Zombar, Rangismni Yosu, Dene Sangi Dembai, Karma Rari Marmeda, Yuma Seba Shurda, Milan Lodan Chinda Duji Chunan Didata, Sonam Di Tamchi Zibai, Goban Dune Gyungi Datu, Gada Nada Shive Datu, Zibe Tsune. To the founder, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of God and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. When, supreme among humans, you were born on this earth, you paced out 7 strides, then said, I am supreme in this world. To you, who were wise then, I prostrate. With pure bodies, form supremely pure, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, winner of the best, Lord, to you I prostrate. With the supreme signs, face like the spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. You are immaculate, 3 worlds are not. Incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Savior having great compassion, the Founder having all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like a vast ocean. To you, the one gone to thusness, I prostrate. The purity which makes one free from attachment, the virtue which frees one from the lower realms, the one path, the sublime pure reality, to that dharma which pacifies, I prostrate. Those who are liberated and who also show the path to liberation, the holy field qualified with realizations, who are devoted to the moral precepts, to you, the sublime community intending virtue, I prostrate. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions, subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a mirage, the flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud, see conditioned things as such. Through these merits may sentient beings attain the rank of all-seeing, subdue the foe of faults, and be delivered from samsara's ocean, perturbed by waves of aging, sickness, and death. Ya de ze janju semba semba jumbo baba jere se wanju sheragi paru de jimba zamu juba nila nambar tajin kumbo abo de la ya ranji ge tomba nambar tau ene zange ge tu seda demba shari gu janju semba semba jumbo baba jere se wanju la dige te meso dige bu kanla la sheragi paru de jimba zamu jeba juba Dupate, Jidar La Parja, Pege Jembe Podam, Sanju Semba Semba Jumbu, Baba Jere Se Wanjuki, Sedan Demba Shari Dade Pola Dege Jeme So, Shari Po, Rige Po, Rige Po Mogana La Sherage Paru Du Jemba Sama Cheba Cheba Dupate, Jidar Nambar Tawar Shade, Pumbo Mafo, Deda Kyang, Rashi, Tomba Nambar Tanda, Pres Tao, So Somba, Tomba ni zu zu le tomba ni xie ma yin, tomba ni le kyang zu xie ma yin, no te shen du tsor wa dang du xie dang du xie dang, nambar xie pa na tomba wo shari. Da che dang che tomba ni de zin yi me ba, ma je ba ma ga ba, chi ma me ba, chi ma dang che wa, chi wa me ba, gang wa me ba, o. Yari bu, de na hui na tomba ni la zo me tsor me pi chil. Sorwa me duji me duji na me number shiva me nawa me na me je me lu me yi me zo me ja me ti me ro me re ja me jo me no me ge ka me ba ne yi ge ga me yi ge number shiva kan je ba ko ya me do mare ba se ba me ba ga je me ka shi se be ba tu ya me ko de shin do dong wa wo dong kun ju wa dang do ba dang da me yi shi me to ba me ma do ba ya me do Shari Mune Nawena Jonju Semba Nam Topa Mepe Shir Shiraki Paru Du Chimba La Tenji Nete Semla Tipa Meshin Trapa Mede Shinje Lole Shindu Dene Nyangele Debe Tar Shindu Duzum Du Nambre Anje Tamje Jan Shiraje Paru Du Chimba La Dene Lana Meba Yanda Pare Zope Shan Shidu Pare Zopa Sa Yesu Denda Wena Shiraki Paru Du Chimbe Ma Riba Jimbo Lana Mebenga, Minya Badanya Benga, Tunga Tamjera, Shiver Chibenga, Minzu Wena, Temper Shiver, Seraja Baru, Chimbenga, Tayada, Gande Gande Para, Gande Para, some Gande Ponte. Rimbu Janju Zimba Zimba Jimbo Deda Shiragi Varu Du Jimbo Zamola Labar Jau Dine Jum Dede Digi Dede Jinde Janju Zimba Zimba Jimbo Baba Jireze Wanju La Deso Sheja Wazin Lezo Lezo Rigi Bu Dede Jimbo Dede Jinde Jida Gigi Timba Jinde Shiragi Varu Du Jimbo Zamola Jibar Jade Deji Sheba Namgyan Jizu Yiram Bodhicitta, Sene Sedan Demba, Shari Bodon Senju Semba Semba Sembo, Baba Sire Sewan Shudan, Tamde Dan Tembe, Kore Dan Sadan Medan, Tama Yidan, Sisa Jebe Jili Ranjin, Chonde Leje Sumba, Page 11. Thus I have heard, once the Blessed One was dwelling in Rajgriha on Vulture's Peak, together with a great assembly of monks and bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One was totally absorbed in the concentration that examines all phenomena, called profound illumination. And at the same time, the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, was engaged in the profound practice of the wisdom gone beyond, analyzing the five aggregates by nature empty. Then, through the inspiration of the Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra spoke to the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, saying, how should those of good family learn who wish to follow the profound practice of the wisdom gone beyond? Thus he spoke, and the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, replied to the Venerable Shariputra, saying, O Shariputra, whatever son or daughter of good family wishes to follow the profound practice of the wisdom gone beyond should look at it like this, analyzing the five aggregates by nature empty. Form is empty, emptiness is form, emptiness is no other than form is no other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, recognition, karmic formations, and consciousness are all empty. Therefore, Shariputra, all phenomena are empty without characteristics. They are unborn and unceasing. They are neither impure nor free from impurity. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no recognition, no karmic formations, no consciousness. There is no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind. There are no spheres of the eyes up to no spheres of the mind. There are none of these all the way up to the sphere of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance, nor is there destruction of ignorance. There are none of these, all the way up to there is no old age and death, nor is there destruction of old age and death. Thus there is no suffering, no cause of suffering, no cessation of suffering, and no path. There is no wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, attainment, all bodhisattvas hold to the wisdom gone beyond, and because there is no obscurity of mind, they have no fear. Passing utterly beyond falsity, they reach beyond the bounds of sorrow. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times, by relying on the wisdom gone beyond, fully and clearly awakened to unsurpassed, most perfect and complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of the wisdom gone beyond, the mantra of great insight, the unequaled and unsurpassed mantra, the mantra that calls all suffering should be known as the truth, for there is no deception. The mantra of the wisdom gone beyond is proclaimed. O Shariputra, this is how a Bodhisattva, Mahasattva should learn the profound wisdom gone beyond. Then the Blessed One arose from that concentration and praised the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, saying, very good, O son of good family. It is exactly like that. The profound wisdom gone beyond should be practiced exactly as you have said, and then the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, the Venerable Shariputra, the noble Avalokiteshvara, that whole gathering, and the world with its gods, men, anti-gods, and spirits, their hearts full of joy, praise the words of the Blessed One. So ends the noble discourse on the essence of the wisdom gone beyond.
아니 준주 사포고 준주고 지다들에 난 준주 사다 자세 참주선배 쪄벌어 줘봐 다리나가 자스 당고 자와세 네 세세 자와세 세세 아니 디 쪄바스 자세 참주선배 쪄바세 아니 로바 사디가 준주선배 쪄벌어 아니 수로고래 로미에스레스 야다디 인생저 공화도 하고 등가나다 먼저 제시 제리어를 해서
Their evening instruction in the way of the Bodhisattva, the Bodhicharya Avatara. The Bodhicharya Avatara is a description of a training undertaken by a person. The person is the heir to the Buddha. The Buddha is the Jinnah, the king, the heir to the Buddha. These are the individuals engaging in the training. So there are then in the title these topics conveyed.
야와 성대다 최다고 생각하다 최디 덤보고 아니 상계 좀 되는데 이들 아니 야와세다 아니 야와 디비다 세디 소리는 아니 장주선바도 좀 아니 야외세스 장주 심슨 줄레게 요가 그 주간가라다 야외세스 민기 따기 요레스 그래서 야와 디기 아니 예수님보다 때리 깨봐인다 콜라 야외세스 민기 따기 요레스.
So first, the Jinnah, the protector, progenitor of the teachings, is the Buddha Shakyamuni, and the heirs to the king, the heirs to this progenitor of the Buddha Dharma are the Bodhisattvas. The Bodhisattvas are those individuals who have developed Bodhicitta in their continua, and so they are named heirs to the Buddha.
Oh yeah, that is it. So that Jawata Javase said more to the teacher. That in a Jawata Javase said, understand as the Lord Chanju Sembe, Jase Chanju Sembe, Jabas, Jase Chanju Sembe, Jabas, that Jabba the Karesna. That Jabba did, and Jabba de la Thomas, but being a tab Rosina, and a Tandan Chanju Semba, Kundo Chanju Sem said, that Jabba love said, that's Jabba did, and Kudo Chilu Jobatida, and Tandam, and Tony to the sheriff, Tandan Chandu Sims, all the years.
So then with that, the Jinnah and the heirs to the Jinnah, that is the heirs to the Buddha, we have an introduction of the persons. Their conduct then, their way, their charya is this. Bodhicitta, that is of two kinds, conventional bodhicitta and ultimate bodhicitta. This is the charya, this is the conduct. Conventional bodhicitta is distinguished from ultimate bodhicitta being insight into emptiness.
Oh, yeah, that's a non-chanju Samsing. And it has not non-chanju Samsing. That only motion to talk. Only motion to talk. And that's 장생 파베 주기도 남지어와 딜러야 단돈 창조 셈스레스 신라송대기 땡에서 돈이 무슨도 또 신라송대기 땡 돈이 남는 신라송대기 땡이 도표저와 어디 다 단돈 창조 셈스레스 다 구조 창조 셈스네디 아니 가레스나 다 semje 탐제 동에다 채와 대화다 댐바 제고도 아니 디페 말하는 지기 이 제약이 뮤버디 아니 술로 도서 산지기 고마마토나 아니 심지기 대 타지 뭐 지토금해 봐 아니 심지기 산지기 고마토나 아니 심지기 대 타지 뭐 지토고 요봐 어디에 셰베 권에 아니 산지기 고마지 마토나 타민도 법을 제게 인생 삼바져와 어디 군조 장주고 sembr에서
The ultimate bodhicitta is direct insight to emptiness. It is the path of insight in the mind of the Bodhisattva. It is the union of shamatha and vipassana, of serenity, meditation, and insight, and it is ultimate bodhicitta. Conventional bodhicitta is recognizing sentient beings to be suffering, the aspiration to part them from their suffering, recognizing sentient beings to wish for contentment, to endow them with that contentment, and to personally commit oneself to doing just that, and then to look to find where one will come by the power to make that come to pass, and that is found in Buddhahood alone. And so a person personally commits to achieving Buddhahood, for without that achievement, one is unable to carry out the well-being of sentient beings. And so one personally vows to achieve enlightenment for the well-being of sentient beings, and this defines conventional bodhicitta.
oi to jasu cheju sembe chobasan ta chobala lopse labe di o tingi le la wores o kunjo chanju sema ta chanju sem tingi le labe na ta chanju sembe chobase bota khadar nganzo ta chita semjing gi choba mi gi choba da chobe nane ta choba chobu gwa japsho choba sangsho 이 chanju sembe choba o chanju sembe choba ga nale mangu yube nane ta har tu gi choba di ta khadar 군도 장주 semla 장주 전다 장주 semla 로베 되다 장주 semla 줘봐는 대부터 그거 차대요. 그래서
Now, Charya, conduct, behavior that one trains in are especially these two, conventional bodhicitta and ultimate bodhicitta. Generally, among human beings, among sentient beings, there are all sorts of modes of behavior. Of all the sorts of modes, the most wholesome, the most sublime, the best of all is bodhicitta. The best of all are those activities of the bodhisattvas. And among those activities, especially bodhicitta, conventional bodhicitta, and ultimate bodhicitta.
다 그냥 뭐 자와체 세데 이 줘봐체 다 줘봐라 로바 다 로방 줘봐라 로베데 한데스로 그래서 다 로베데라 아니 로베다 로방 뭐 망고요 그래서 다 그냥 다 단단하고 자세 정주선배 줘봐라 정주선배 코랑 정주선배 인심을 만에 아니 줘봐라 라미에데 간대요 그래서나 얘라 람마는다 밀람이 파 산지고 로하다 산지게 라면 이바샤 다 라미를 람파피 라마시 당보도 고람 되네 통람 되네 저람 되네 소람 토시 고람을 되네 통람 되네 저람 되네 소람 디가라 슈팅 람디게 디가라 유니소라 유니기 가사 수이나 딜레 산주 셈바스라 그래서
Now we know the jinnas, their heirs, the bodhisattvas, their charya, the two forms of bodhicitta. And then one trains in these bodhicitta. How is this done then? But through stages. The heirs to the Buddha, those who are indeed heirs to the Buddhas, bodhisattvas, engaged in the path, they abide on 5 paths, but will leave out the 5th path, the path of no more learning, which is the very state of Buddhahood itself, leaving 4 remaining paths. And of highest order is the path of meditation. Beneath that, the path of seeing. Beneath that, the path of preparation. And beneath that, the path of accumulation. These 4, in the individual abiding on any of these 4, is a bodhisattva.
도셔도 고름을 고름 쓰리더만 다 돈이 또 벌게 하자는 거 공부 친구차 아니 그 돈이 돈이 그 통화로 배추는 토반으로 공부 숙침부 차 배탈 맞지 공부 숙침부 유교 내가 남들라 고럼스 아티네 이바들라 통험이바 통험지 돈이 당보 통화네 전 안에서 산이바 마토베 바로 남지어와 돈이 어디라다 통험스 그래서 당보 통면 산이바 마토베 바로 남지어와 어디를 통험스 그래서 야, 알도 이미 숨쉬어.
The path of meditation, the highest of these four, before the path of no more learning, is the path in the mind of the Bodhisattva that is consolidating, that is well underway in the familiarization with emptiness, the mind that has no doubt as to emptiness, whose familiarity, accustomedness to emptiness has grown very strong. Such an individual is on the path of meditation. Before this is the path of seeing. The path of seeing occurs with the first insight into emptiness and spans the ground to the second Bodhisattva bhumi. From the first insight, direct insight into the first insight into emptiness to the second Bodhisattva bhumi. This is the path of seeing.
Oh, yeah. 람나 나나야 다다 타만이들 사주지고 사당부디 사당부 톱네 사니바 모토보도 통험로 젬바도 사당부디 통험데 사니바네 사주어보도 람딜라 사주어보도 야비 람저로 딜로 고람라 그래서 고람나 사부이.
These five paths contain within them 10 bhumis, 10 grounds. The first bhumi up to the second bhumi is the path of seeing. The second bhumi through the 10th bhumi is the path of meditation.
약간 죽지바도 산제사 지그래제 지그래서 뭐야 다 딜레 인도서 맞다 사 주샤야 돼 가스나고 방제 민저 주요 방제를 내 방제는 살야 톡고야 인도스 시제를 해서
The 11th bhumi is the ground of Buddhahood itself. So these are the 11 bhumis. Now, on 10 Bodhisattva bhumis, there are 10 because there are 10 classes of abandonments. That which is to be abandoned are variously 10. And so there are 10 grounds.
방제 주가지 삼바 통망지요 통방 방제 진인수 남수는 통람을 하고 다 공방들라 공방 꼴 구치 꼴 구대는 살을 또 방고를 해서
Among these 10 Bodhisattva bhumis, the path of the abandonments on the path of seeing are involved in the first path. The remaining paths have each 9 rounds of abandonments that are the abandonments on the path of meditation.
Oh, yeah, that's 양답들라 지딘리 대벨람스 지딘리 대벨람 나그레 파람 나그레 오 장세 어디 민이 됐다 근데 사토벨람 나그레 어디 민다그레서
These grounds are known as the transmundane or the supramundane grounds, and also the Arya ground, the noble grounds.
that's 고람제, 토람제, 다 디오들 조람제 디오들 토람스 오야, 람 하면이라 어디 고람 조람다 토람이래서.
Then this leaves the path of preparation and the path of accumulation. These are the remaining 2 paths.
오야, 다 조람스. 조람스 is 조르벨람스. 조르바스도 고 먼저 찍을 거도 대신 조르바스데 고 사진 찍는 야 내가 당보도 고추는 이발에 두세 자니 이발들이야 그야 땅도 잘라면서 내가 이발들이야 자니에서 걸어와 제가 돈이 무슨 또 남라 야 졸업하지 않는다고 하고 본인 모습도 또 남도 저러 같이 세단 그 가다다 간다 믿음어서 도서 부자지 없잖아요. 한번 나로 부자지 근데 치료적인 부자지가 되나 신신 본인 모습도 또 남도야 도서 여러 같이 야 부자지 봐. 어디래도 제가들라 졸람스가 그래서
Now, the path of preparation, in the word itself, preparation, conveys an impulse, a connection with the path of seeing, connecting that which precedes to the path of seeing itself, a samdhi, a connection, and a final push as impulse onto the path of seeing.
딱 한달 돈이 모습도 써야지. 배 또야 치도록 자리치 대사 자리치자 내가 그 람이다 졸람스 미모스 데 따라서
And because it is a preparation underway for the undertaking that occurs on the path of seeking, on the path of seeing, it is preparation for that final impulse and thrust into the path of seeing.
다 졸람스 다 이제 마치는 소람스도 좀 돈이 모습도 또 발라 돈이 지단에다 돈이 또 발라 아니 가리고 버스는 굉장히 아니 소망 사고 버렸어 소 사야 내가 그 람이다 소람스라고 해서
And the path of accumulation is involved with laying the groundwork for direct insight into emptiness, bringing together all of the supportive conditions required for this. And as it is engaged in that, accumulating supportive conditions, it is the path of accumulation.
디시기 람 디시티니 람시 이보데 가나 로마직 수익률 여바이나 유니기 강사도 미나 람슈지 강사 람나 쇼차를 강사 다 이게 찍지가 터면은 람나 마슈가 강사 라마슈 강사 세레로
An individual in whose mind has arisen any one of these four paths is a stream enterer, a stream abider, and they are known as such.
세상다 다들 장주선들 저벌 럽니 인간 권능이 뭐 너무 자와세 저벌 라비아서 저벌 라비아 림버트오티 다들 람나 슈니에다라 인다시 안 람나 마슈이 지금 와서
Lama mashukin na.
람나 마슈이 지 람나 슈이 시 돕는가
Lama mashukin sure.
찍찍
Gare.
찍장하죠 뭐 람나 마슈이 찍장하죠
Lama shukin shira. Lama shukin
이제는 저런 고런 통은 시가 그렇게 되는데 나로 망고여라
Thus, the explanation first of the Jinnah, the king, then the heirs to the king, the heirs to the Jinnah, then the Charya, the conduct, and the stages of the trainings. And through these, we know of these four individuals that are engaged in the path.
오야 이제 좀다 민가되기 람라람이 수레스 저한테 또 민가다는 건 당황하지 뭐 어디 나가요 그래서 다 간데스라고 그래서 다 어디 저어디래 간데스라고 그래 람단 간데스라고 그래서 어째 도저히 타마 저 타마도 차대요 그래서 세상다 저 타마되기 랍도 좀다 다이엔마 당고 골람되기 람라람이 탈치 놓고 감갈랍니다 랍 자로지고다 랍저랍에다 맞으나 또 턴루고 또 턴에 산지 고만 톱스는 랍고 말와 다 토놈되기 다 거기 랍다된다 야 랍도 맞으면 본다 턴이다 곧 랍좀 가가 시엔 차와 아니 다 디그리네는 매주적으로 어디서도 토놈 차대요 그래서 뭐다 졸음되기다 단다 랍는 것이 오늘 그런 랍대야 주지 졸음다 스마는 예서
Between then the Jinnah, the king, the heirs to the king, the Charya, the conduct, the stages, we have these four sections. And that leaves one remaining, and this is the fifth section, how one undertakes the trainings. This is the last question then. How does one undertake the trainings?
And when we look at the 5 paths, particularly the 4 before the path of no more training, we find in the path of meditation an individual in their practice nearly complete and consummated in their understanding, in the final stages of their study, in the final stages of their training. It is as though they were about to graduate. Once they were to graduate, then on the ground of Buddhahood, there is no more training to be done. Beneath the path of meditation, the path of seeing, is an individual too who's well underway in their training. They have but to receive their diploma ahead of them. And then the paths beneath these two, the path of preparation and the path of accumulation, these are the paths in which the student, the person, is actually in earnest training in the middle of their progress.
Oh yeah, that's ne. That tama lamashu, lamashu. That's Holanda, Jolanda, Hong Kong, Lam, Villa, Majini, that Lamashu, Lamashu, Kansa Digi, Young, and that change you look on Chiro, just as you should love Gurua. Oh, yeah, that is good at this love for us. That what Digi Ladandi, and that let Tambo change you the Chandan the rest ones.
And this leaves then the individuals who are not yet mounted on any of these paths. They remain yet to enter the paths. And these are the individuals who are beginners who turn their attention to the way of the Bodhisattva to begin that earnest training.
Yeah, that is Lamla, the Panda Jade, Sanju, Sanju, Jobal, Juba, say, that motion out, that is shitty, live response.
Then all of this as an explanation is embedded in the title then.
Oh yeah, that today you do that. That Jobal loves it, as it's using the Jobal loves it, down on the Jobal loves it, no matter. I'm using the Jobal loves it, and using the Jobati. Down on the better not to focus in a corner shape to the matter. Lamji, Bala loves it, cousin of the Konama, she did any kiwusum the ram with the ballops, that got the tip of more lamb the Balaloba asker. That tip of more lamb the Balaloba said, that then a kiwu chumu with on the Lojon by Shem or kiwu chumu conado, Lojanga, to Bachio. You would drink it lamb about Lojang, Lokura car, that you would chill lamb the Balojans or Sus to Kaka, your response.
And the training is, in the way of the Bodhisattva, it is a training with stages that is progressive. It is progressive as it contains trainings for individuals of different capacities, beginning with the least capacity, and then including to the middling capacity, and then also trainings for those of greatest capacity, in which there are trainings that are common to all.
Oh, yes. That the cousin of the Lodong, Lose some Bashi on the call, lose some Bashi on the lose some Bagata, the Chanjusam, the shades having. One to young lad doing the shades had and the water, the Lord Johnson, Chanjusam, John Harris, about one to share on do, and the lot of the Shemba, Shembashi test, Lord Shembashi test. Oh, yes, Shembashi test on the number, said Dilash and not Chaba means the number. You chumug language on the door, she or response. Oh, yeah, that the name you would got it. Coalition. I mean, the matter of circulation, Shabam coalition, and got Nijumis, or you would think the show or response.
In the 3rd chapter of the Bodhicharya Avatar, in the 3rd chapter of the Way of the Bodhisattva, concerned with the development of the mind of enlightenment and involving the 7 branch offering, we then move to the actual mind of enlightenment. And as we do, remember the 4 attachments. The first is the attachment to life, this life. Insofar as one is attached to this life, one is not a practitioner. The second attachment is to samsara. So long as one is attached to samsara, one has yet to develop renunciation. The first of these, attachment to this life, concerns individuals of the smallest capacity, least capacity. Attachment to samsara concerns those with middling capacity.
Oh, yeah, that in a subadilla, Tadilla Shena, Changsemis. Oh, that rangi. Yamlen Kandiji Chewe and Yamlen is Susu Rangi, the Otobia, and Rangi Kulungu, Randu, Gigi, Log Kunalan Shena, and the Changsemis, and you just watching the Chiba Mares, or the Jetalojang to the Shivares, and then Zimbabwe not said, although that. The Tamini so contact Tony Tobishan, Zimbabwe Denzi, you know, and Tommy Tobelo Chigi Marwachana, Jimmy, but not Tower Man, Tower Mares, what is one.
The third grasping is self-interest. Insofar as one is self-interested, one is yet to develop the mind of enlightenment. When one's efforts are all to secure one's own contentment, and this is the underlying motivation, self-interest, one is not a Mahayanist yet. And the fourth, attachment to philosophical view. Where there is philosophical view, right view has yet to be known. Right view entails insight into the absence of intrinsically existing personhood. Two forms of personhood are found to be absent. So long as these are grasped after, proper view has yet to be understood.
Oh, yeah, that means what you smoking on the Lord Jangwayatilla, so Midaba Cotier, Midaba, Chua Samba, Namji, Mesamba, Chiva, Chuma to Kangami Pemba Samba, and it Jamdro, Lende, or the Zuko Lagado, and it you smoking on the Lord Jangwayat, or the body to your response.
In the Dharma of smallest scope, meditations of first importance are meditation on impermanence, impending death, the benefit of Dharma and Dharma alone at the time of death, refuge, karmic causality. All of these topics are embraced in the Dharma of lesser scope.
Oh, yeah, that in you would drink Kabula and a career resina, and a chicken to me. Oh, chicken to me. And then they got the call Kuzu, then they Namsha, or they see Namsha, then they get Namsha to Zukanga, and you would take the Lojang where the Lojang, everybody gets response.
What is involved in the Dharma of middle scope? The presentation of cyclic existences, general suffering, and of karmic causality, and the four truths.
No. Oh, yeah. That in a Jiwu Chimbul Lambi Lojang, you said that Jiwu Chimbul Lambi Lojang, then that Lojang Shedan, to Tashi Yamji on the Lojang, and the Junjay are doing on the Lojang, we need it. There's one.
And then the Dharma of greatest scope. How does one train? What are the trainings involved in this Dharma scope? Particularly the practice of exchanging and equalizing self and others, and the sevenfold cause and effect oral instruction.
Oh, yeah, that's it. That Lojang said, that Lojang does himself. That Tiba Chimbul Tadang of the Junjuk Shiki, the Junjuk did. So Tiba Chimbul on the Lojang do the Sheko, Tiba Chimbul Koran. He was member to one member Lam Lojang, the Tiba Chimbul Lam Lojang, the Tunjin. Usually, Chavi or to watch in it. That's all the Tiba Chimbul Lam Lojang, that's how you would sing. The Lord Giant to Shiggy or that the Vision using the Lord Jula Giant was a mother. That was so young to lie at it. She Rangi to a situ, she look in Yamle. Change in me, but seriously do us do a number shig. Oh, then Yamle ticket is using the Yamle so to get the response.
The way of the Bodhisattva is a text in the Mahayana tradition, involved in the Mahayana, the trainings that are the method of the Mahayana, build from the supportive conditions of the foundation vehicle, which are its cause. However, the principal practices of the Mahayana are distinct from it and are bodhicitta itself and training to develop bodhicitta as the main practice. In order to ripen one's own mind, one practices the 6 paramitas, the 6 perfections, and in order to develop and ripen the minds of others, one practices the 4 means of gathering disciples.
뭐야, 딱 이나네 진루그 냠레이도 진루그 냠레나네 당보디 딱 집에 냠레 동거를 집에 삼주 생각보다 아니 냠레게 난다 집에 냠레 통마 제다다 집에 냠레디 냠주 랑버스 냠레 당고스 냠주 랑버스 해봐라 당보 집에 냠레 로장와도 뭐도 보고요 로마잖아 아니 집에 냠레게 다시 뭐 영향이 강가도 요말 제가 집에 냠레 다시 뭐 영향을 당보 집에 냠레 뭐 슈버 제발에 오늘 로장 오늘 두고 그랬어. 나도 단도 뒤나네. 장주 선배 냠래 냠래게 나네. 칠루고 냠래 칠루고 냠래 나는 다 도마 집에 냠래. 집에 냠래 제발아야 도마 돈내게 냠래 제야. 그주가 막 아니 로종이 그래서 로장 오늘 두고 이거 어디게 숨고야 그래서
In the 6 paramitas, first is the paramita of generosity. In the charyas, the various practices of the bodhisattvas, this means then that the first is the practice of generosity. It is the actual undertaking of generous activities. And what it requires is first transformation of thought, so that thought itself conduces to, allows for generosity. Without the transformation of thought beforehand, the actual practice of generosity does not get underway, and it will not be completed, not without first thought transformation, training the mind in order to enter the practice of generosity, the first of the 6 paramitas. So then, this is among practices of the bodhisattvas, among the paramitas, the first, the practice of generosity, which requires and involves exchanging and equalizing self and others. But in order for self and others to be exchanged, one must first transform their thought. The mind that voluntarily gives generously, that is liberality, in order for it to come about, requires a transformation in thought beforehand. It is a transformation that occurs then through contemplation of through use of the various resources that may be given in acts of generosity, and those are one's own body, one's resources, and roots of virtue themselves.
제가 다 몰라도요. 맞잖아. 아니 루이담 도야생도 시다 가고를 왔어. 동주에 다야 가고를 아니 계산 다야도 텔레비전 가가 차대요. 제가 로딩 원도 당고 봐 동야 동생 그 로드 숙청부 지장 아니 장차회지를 뭐시 집어 다야 두줄래도 로 장차회자 아니 강행시라요 말해서
Without first a mentality that has been sufficiently transformed to allow for a liberal spirit, there is no actual undertaking of generosity. One cannot conceivably give their own body nor resources. This will be impossible without the foregoing transformation of the mind that allows for that generous spirit. And so then one begins in exercising liberality.
that's the 그상도 가리 롱오면은 가리시에서나 다들 또 다른 류 집바타야 거든 가든지 롱오면은 셰여스 다 류디 집바 챤라 바 집바 땅 차도 아니 챤라 때 차바 챤라 때 차도서 아니 챤이 배주 그 간데스 롱주기 요바 이나야 아니 보라는 배랑 롱주야 언제 차단 요바 아니 롱주 배 챤라 진 차도 아니 챤이 랑 류를 다 바게 디치게로 왔다 배주당을 배주당되는 라는 뇌바다 가지 딱 마가와 체바 뇌바 체바 가리 두자 체바 있나야 아니 랑을 숨어 맞체바 그 거랑 가르치는 거랑 뇌바 이번에 지주바 되게 일로 자야 돼 당부시해버려 손하지.
Now, last week we considered the body as the object that is given over. It is given to others. And when the body is given to others, then it is made available for any use. Every other has every right to use this body in whatever way they wish. And as they do, then, as the rights to the body, the autonomy has been given over to others, then whether others harm or disturb or whatever they might do, then we do not feel any protectiveness or defensiveness of the body.
Oh yeah, that's what machine is Sunday morning. Rang never chebaina, Joe one never chebaina, carry chebaina, rang delaya, and the troll member. And the rang is sent to lose somewhat them, and they lose the chana, Chandu and Bechi, but Tangi way in the Chana Lutan, rang is Petil Senaya member. And the jig rang is carry chebaina, by Shana Pepper Show, the Koran. That's the Shangy round of Nujeba. Nujeba, the Rang Subacoma, get down from it, Giva. I guess I are Subacoma in the Subacoma Jebu, and I guess I guess that Jeba Tamje, and it's shame, Shanda Shangy to mission that to get the crown of Debatova, on to the Devatove, Gula door. That Tarsaji, go on to the Gula shore, door shores, Nolam Jad. Oh, it's not lost to this on your resource.
Then whatever the intention of the other, whatever their actual action, whatever they do, in fact, one responds without anger and without defensiveness, for in the act of generosity, possession and autonomy of the body has been given over to others, thereby allowing them whatever they wish. And so when others wish to harm us as we have given over our body, then we tolerate the harm done to us. And in fact, as that tolerance and patience accumulates for us a virtue, then that same store of virtue is then turned over again to sentient beings, that they be everywhere and always benefited, and their every wish be fulfilled. And thus, too, our patient practice withstanding abuse then too is dedicated as cause for the enlightenment of the others as well.
Oh yeah, that is Lugi, Chimbaton, Yame, that only in Yame, Chizu, to Chanjuti, that Longju, that Langita, Rangi Lugi Sabe, Longju, that's Paton Chabala. Any number chiata, Malam Jasem, Yamen chair, or this year, the rest. Ile Tamu Rani. Yani simje 탐자기 예고 타다 주르면 봐 sabjid들 다 자와디 다니 보면 남지 고는 해서 다니 보면 남지 고 라슈 남지 대변다 인도 남지 후다니 생도 냠바 니도 좋지라다 좀 받습니다.
뭐
시바
자기 루틴 단체가 이 말을
시바된다. 간 고고대로
서치기
마숨
서치기
좀 휴지고만 찍찍 고고대
네
sabject다가 아니 체기 내고 타다 그러면 막
맞아 그래
또 시바디 고고
시바디야 아 раз
sabject rani
네
rani 체기 고고 타다기 그러면 봐세 스타도 되는
with that, then the thought transformation for exchanging and equalizing self and other, and for giving the body in generosity has been the topic of the preceding verses. And now we turn our attention to acts of generosity, giving of our personal resources, of our own resources. And so then the aspiration, the practice, is to transform oneself into the very necessity, daily necessities needed by others, to transform oneself into just that. In verse 18, verse 18. May I be a guard for those who are protectorless, a guide for those who journey on the road. For those who wish to cross the water, may I be a boat, a raft, a bridge.
Oh, yeah, that's a Dani, Dani, Rani Rosu, Gome, Namji, Gome, Namji, Gosri, Tamazo, Rango Matini, Mir, Pena, Poo, Udorina, Hameg, Botemora, Hameg, Boot, Lance over a Poo, that Doshemba, Deshemba, that can occur in Sogo words. There's a dinaji, and it's subject Tamjela, and it's going to jump, never so any pay. But Jamie, go. Oh, it is only going to do a short number check the restaurant.
May I be a guard for those who are protectorless. Protectorless in the sense of children who need instruction and support in everything they do, moving about, or even staying in place at all times, they require assistance. So too are there sentient beings who require guardianship, protection, and who have no guardianship, no protection. And so the aspiration is to become for those protectorless sentient beings a guard for them.
Oh, the Pena Calere. On the Puchin, Kubaja Tulamatula, the Puchin, Hameg, and those who get managed their matuning to Hola, to Chibas, Chibas. On that deep pedilla journey, and in Odota, Tombani, Tomatoni, said Dima, Cheshima Ponigi, and is Hansadola, and in Chibas to the Jews, Mindares. Chibas to the Jews, the number Chibas, the poor Mindara. 대단 보고진주의 밤하면은 밤에면은 꼭 전부 말아 이제 지도 말아 된나시 아니 딱 거기 집안 남라 아니 잡다 고면은 꼭 전부 말아 어디를 빼자 수고요 그래서
For those toddlers just learning to walk, as they move about, they need a parent beside them, and there's nothing they can do without a parent. Sentient beings who have yet to have insight into emptiness are likened to the child, the toddler. They are preoccupied with this life alone, have yet to see beyond this life, have yet to have insight into emptiness, and so they are childish, they are toddlers and unable to support themselves. So these protectorless individuals, may I become guardian to them.
Oh yeah, that's in it. That's what we are. What Hena? Any guardian, that's the dragon to Lagate and Duguruas. Oh, I said that Tidutama said that didn't I see any? And it lamb to Siniba Digi, Lamshu Namji, Tebe dance. The lamb is to do the that to the Rodan and the love that down in the Karina again, the soup. 저보다 되게 되지는 그들랑가 그간 차기로와 어디나시다 남도 슈바스를 다니 남도 슈바스를 좀 맞다 맞도 세디를 땅에 치만 냠내 지통이 다디니 파는 갈래 아니 다고 치만 로신이로 차고 와서도 디를 남도 슈바스 다 다이는 어디 남도 슈바스를 좀 봐. 남도 슈바스를 대신 솔람도 슈스나 장주 쌤 줄에 깨서나 아니 남도 슈바스 맹 다니다로 와서 나주선 귤라 깨봐 이제 처럼 귤라 깨봐 거기 전다 찍고 해서 에다 전다 찍고 인도 잠바 아니 뒤에 남노 슈버 다 남노 슈버 되죠 아니 남디네 아 치젠 바 안다 남노 투주다 냠도 도로 대변스나다 바람도 도로스나다 남도 도야기 그 칭예스나다 남체스라 남 칭예스나 오 딜레 귤가 쇼스만은 얘기 그래서
a guide for those who journey on the road. Once a person gains independence enough to support themselves and go about on a way, whatever way that may be, down a path, through schooling, becoming a teacher, along with friends, when one is underway, oneself, when that has happened, we understand that as it were, someone to see who has seen beyond this life alone and toward coming lives and practices accordingly, and is therefore underway and supporting themselves. And particularly, we mean for those who journey on the road here, especially the Mahayana path, therefore those who journey on the road being those who abide in the path, the Mahayana path, and have therefore developed the mind of enlightenment. Those who are underway in this way, the prayer here will protect as a captain, as a guide, and this is the aspiration. Then the prayer is to consummate the undertaking, to bring about the finishing of the path for those traveling along this path, the ensuring that there's no mistake along the way, the making swift of progress, the elimination of obstacles along the way, that all of these occur through the protection of a captain, a guide, and that oneself becomes that captain and that guide is the aspiration in this verse. For those who wish to cross the water, may I be a boat, a raft, a bridge. As one goes along their way, then there are precipices and great bodies of water and dangers. And as one aspires to find the far shore, to cross the great ocean of suffering in samsara and find the far shore, the boat is used, the raft is used, and that oneself becomes that very vehicle for crossing the great ocean is the aspiration of the verse. For great bodies of water, then a sturdy boat is required. When there's a precipice, when there's a chasm, a bridge. So to cross that great ocean of samsara suffering, then a boat. And for those precipices and chasms along the way, a bridge. May I myself become just that. It's the aspiration of the verse. May I be an isle for those who yearn for land, a lamp for those who long for light, for all who need a resting place, a bed. For those who need a servant, may I be their slave. The meaning of these verses is similar to that of verse 18. Whatever the need, the necessity of sentient beings, may I become just that, to satisfy that need.
뭐야? 다 당부들이 생각도 다 당부들 링드니어와 링드니어 링드 링당에서도 다 나도 그 다른 몰라가 다른 뭐 아니 직박에 그냥 가서 가려 다른 뭐 도구고 이거 이들 아니 나가는 소자 아니 직박에 사자 링가 저거다 이 사자 그 가다 링도다 근데 수술로 다 직게 소자게 네 가려 고고 있나요 아니 어떻게 주어 쇼스 그런 적이 오래서
May I be an isle for those who yearn for land, those who are in dangerous straits, who need a place of relief, a moment of relief, an oasis. An isle for those yearning for land. The verse here is aspiration to become just that.
나도 내 마음에 들어 마음에 닿았어. 그 같은 아주 직하게 따라하게 람 마세워 여는 세워 채하게 치도다. 세도다. 아니 지금 람는 내가 있는 세워 치도 되게 치도다. 거기 외고 사자고 어디도요. 강에 된데 체대가 그 랑가 많이요. 아니 랑가 너를 되게 들어야 아니 지 랑가 뜨트야 그 마음에 나시 불투어서 말은 되게 그래서
A lamp for those who long for light, those who cannot see the way clearly, who are facing dangers along the way, and who need light for safety and to find their way, those who are lost, who have lost their path, haven't found it, for those who need light to guide their way, may I become that light.
뭐야 다 내면들은 내면다 내면들은 예사스고 예사 그다 가다 수수 거에 람라 두두자마 땡에 소자다기 단지 거기 예사다 되는 거기에 다 수수께지 내도 치사다 강과다 되는 고구로 되는 고구에서 되는 고아도 줄어야 내가 나시 그거 쇼스만은 되고 그래서
For all those who need a resting place, a bed. For those who need a servant, may I be their slave. For all those who need a resting place, a place for relief when they are fatigued, a shelter of some kind, may I become that shelter and place.
뭐야 다 다네 루진 텐드 버스 다네 쓴다 루진을 심지엔 소라 심지에 아니 그 가리 텐드 버스도 요거 되어 봐다 아니 저거 가리 고고 유바나 고고 직강에 가와를 써야 고고 고고 있는데 요거 고고 있는데 요거를 주어서 너는 되고 그랬어
For those who need a servant, may I be their slave. Those who need a servant are those who would wish to employ another. However they may wish to do that, may I be that person so employed. However I may bring them relief, may I do just that.
뭐 생각보다 지금 꾸기 텐드 주거든 이제 탐색이 아니 지금 한게 딱 여바 요약이 치들어 아니 간대지 지고는 요거는 요 로고는 로 가리 고고다 될 줄을 쇼스 탐색이 여바 강화치 루트가 쇼스 너는 되고 그래서
May I be their slave. For all those who need a servant, may I be their slave. The meaning is then, whatever the wish, the need of sentient beings, whether it is for an enslaved person to help them, or merely assistance, whatever it is that they need, may I become just that, to fulfill their want.
나 나도 단다 수술라 딱 간대지 고구유된 고야의 선물 코르네 아니 지금 고구유가 얼마나 되고 다 니츠에 파지 위적 수술 전답이 답도 미신발 파삼 미국 지부전의 현달로 고 현달 고 얼마나 되고 단단한 좀 뭐는 수술로 나라 유변 주자라 토바쇼 나라 지 토바쇼 뭐는 되죠라 어디나 시다디 라는 거에 파너당 라는 파유 다디 현라 현이 쭉 아니 현라 쇼 영화쇼 현라 영화쇼 얼마나 되래서
This is but a reversal of the direction we wish for all goods and services to flow, that is to us. It is to reverse this self-interest and to recognize others as warranting this very same flow of goods and services, so then to them, reversing the order, may to others all that they need come.
뭐야, 다들 나지. 다 디와도 자와도 이신 노다 공부상. 내가 주당 맨제당 빠산 빠산 기니 신다당 류젠남지 뇌주 주르스다 간다면은 된 디나시다 간다면은 야야 제메자마도 자반시 거래서 뭐 간다 시행지 여와 코베 줄을 줘 쇼스면은 제거래서
May I be the wishing jewel, the vase of wealth, a word of power and the supreme healing. May I be the tree of miracles, for every being the abundant cow. In just the same way, this is the aspiration for others to have their wishes fulfilled.
뭐야, 다시 당고 이신 노다 공부상 스니데 이신이 노고 생에디 아니 가르쳐서 이신 노고 생에디 아니 semjegi 골드 탐지 주바 아니 바가 고바 탐지 세와 뼈바 탐지 주바 어디를 이신노 보내고서나 이신노 보나지 그거 쇼 찍만은 찍으래 아니 공부상 모습도 다마도 배 양도 그 버자치 뭐 양도 semje 탐지기 좀 가르쳐도 좀 루트에 자와 탐지 루트야 돼 아니 공부상 모습 저 지dengi 벤저 무슨 소바도 루트야 돼 근데 공부하지가 명이래 대단 대나시 주가 쇼 만남 되게 그래서
May I be the wishing jewel, the vase of wealth. The wishing jewel, the wish-fulfilling jewel, gives to the person who wishes upon it all that they desire. It achieves for them all they wish for. It eliminates all they wish to avoid. And this first prayer is to become just that. Then the second, the vase of wealth. The vase of wealth is for fortune, whatever one can think of for their personal fortune that they may achieve. The vase of wealth achieves that for them, and so to become the vase of wealth is the aspiration.
뭐야 다른 나도 좀 내지들 생각도 가서 너무 누버도 배들와 누버도 나는 가르치고 있으나 semjegi 고들도 봐 시와 semjegi 내주가 될 내들 시와 예바 왕 가보선들 두개로 던져던져 그가 두바점 그가 라고 두바점 되는 이 semjegi 이제 두두바 영화 쇼 뭐는 직세 아니 맨젠다서도 아주 딱 내세요 제가 맨 맨들에다 리무데 마고요다 맨 첸다서도 맨 친구들이 나랑도 맨 산에 귤을 못 소투야요 맨지기 내 마고 시야요 봐 아니 변화가 어느 줄랭이 메시지 담아 아니 셀 때문에 뭐 줄랭이 제는 별로도 야다 동다한테 초도야 근데 매로 어떻게 끼워서 오면은 제가 그래서
A word of power and the supreme healing. A word of power is a mantra that achieves pacification, enhancement, wrathful practices, and magnetization. And then the supreme healing is the medicine that is able to address illness of every sort, to bring healing of every kind. It is called the supreme healing, for it is like there is that special elixir that one may take, a concentrated essence that allows one to live on that and that alone for 100 years or 1,000 years. Such is the healing, the supreme healing that one here wishes to become oneself.
어야 빠산식이 빠산기니 신다가 빠산기 신세네 아주 빠산기 신생에들 아니라게 저 너는 저한테 제발이나 아니 세다 걸어서 그 세바메바 이제 줄에 이거 어떻게 나시 주어 쇼스만 이제 그래서
May I be the tree of miracles. Similarly, by the power of the tree of miracles, anything one requires in clothing and food and the rest, one comes to possess.
어야 단 류제는 류제주 교를 쓰던가 류제스를 선제 탐지기에서 선제 탐지기 간 되어봐 간다 간 되어봐 대다 되기 겐 타다 아니 둘투야기 유를 주어 쇼스만 이제 그래서
For every being, the abundant cow. Every being is all inclusive of all sentient beings and their every wish May I become the abundant cow to bring fulfillment to their every wish.
Oh, yeah, that in that two that chili, yacho, no boss, subject, do the judges have such yacho, no boss. That's all the last. So, to want Chimota. Nagashin to Tabata, Simjin Patu Mebai, Namani, so Shirian shows. Oh, yeah, that is all this and subject. Tuda, Tuji on the best. Talk, like your country, what I did. Any Yacho, you might remember. Chu me say, but Yacho, you have to remember the subject of the records.
Just like the earth and space itself and all the other mighty elements for boundless multitudes of beings, may I always be the ground of life, the source of varied sustenance. This falls under the section of aspiration for time and use to be most vast. And so it is then that whatever the action, whatever the virtue, may it be enduring and very great and not be lost, not dissipated.
Oh, yeah, that I'm what you saw so watching what times, Sala saw watchable. And then saw two men room watching what she said. Elayan, she to watch she, Nagi to watch she, what to do, you are this one.
Just like the earth and space itself and all the other mighty elements, there are the 5 great elements of earth, water, wind, fire. The number 7 yang apa di?
Nobody matters. Chimbushida, watching Bushiro.
No, the four great elements. For boundless multitudes of beings, may I always be the ground of life, the source of varied sustenance. And these great elements are both external elements and internal elements.
Oh, yeah, so you want to see the Harichis, that she wants you to do. No, you can't. That then she chibe, and it was sa. And to do what chibe, true. And I remember chibe, me. And ya pewa, cheva, loom, what's the quality, Joan she legacy tumbling this. Want the job of the chiro, oh, then till a cheat one she response.
Lolo, then I read it, teach you younger somehow.
Oh, yeah, sag dancing one,
No,
such that. She knew that, Saka to the Doda never chibalan, such another cable children, dancing away them. You want to sag it, Lagatiche.
No.
That chugu to do about Shima to do what you want to chugu. And yeah, you want to give a chibadi, make it.
No.
That means you want to buy pairs among but some time the most child of the longest response.
The 4 great elements in the external physical universe are the earth that is the basis for the others, water that causes cohesion, fire that causes the increase, and wind that multiplies the elements.
Oh, yeah, now you want to push it. And it chooses some gender, never chevalot. And now you want she did not understand it to be a member that you got and want she to your response.
And as there are the external great elements, there are the internal great elements that are sentient beings, and the role of the great elements in as basis and ripening and increase in the sentient beings that are the contents of the physical universe.
Oh, yes, that chi the nang said the chi nang migi she the materials and the chi jock see or the chi said. That migi she the jaw. Around the Coven, Miji Pen, on the Coven, and such a melon with the Southern Day, Southern Euro, said that they let Nangi to one system that she takes this one.
The external great elements are external as they are not incorporated in the sentient mental stream, the mental continua of sentient beings, and they are external to it. Those that are in the faculties and in the consciousness of sentient beings, these are the internal great elements.
Oh, yeah, that interesting. That in the that Joan she did Nangi Joan she said. That Nagashin to Tabayas, Nagas, Naga comes in, Joan 용화도 찍마다 난게 감 찍찍이랬어. 그래서 난게 감 되기 아니 가르치기랬으나 초 탐제를 찹. 세 타다 내 주면 가가 가서 갈래 찹되고 여러 잡아지 아니 잡아 되기 아니 자 디나라 자와다 자와 간리지 제바 이나양 아니 고급 제투 고급 제투바 어디에 제바 인다 아니 제가 나게 감신라 그래서
Just like the earth and space itself, the earth and the other great elements, and then space itself considered separately as space that contains direction and where and is all pervasive. Therein, all activities that occur, may those activities that are constructive meet with sentient beings in all of vast space itself.
나가 신도 딱보라 양스 딱바 양스 좀더 그 딱보라 양스 그 이마이나양 이제 말한 게다 내서라 수수다 다는 거는 수수이나 수 아니 네 가도 이나양 딱보라 양 아니 난가 타예바나지 샘쟁이 되 빠도 매박이 아니 배 저와 간집에 고급 탐지 준투바 사소 종화식이 베스 지된 초와 제바나시 디나시 샘제 탐제를 그때 초투와 제박이 아니 왜 이제 제투벌 쇼스 어디에 말은 자들에서
Just like the earth and space itself and all the other mighty elements for boundless multitudes of beings may always be the ground of life, the source of varied sustenance. This is then, may I be constantly their source of livelihood. At all times, may I be their source of livelihood, just as the four elements are source of support for sentient beings. May I be source of support for those too at all times.
뭐야 넘버 예수 이런 쇼스가 담는 또 돈을 나와 있나 딱 간다 지된지 감나는 종화 전부 시다 아니 난가 아니 지된 감나다 뭐뭐 뭐요 아주 가서 최백이 드시게도 좀 망고 쉬울 드시자요 어떻게 상말로 아니 지금 sem쟁이 된 원래 가가로 sem쟁을 코와 요반 나지 아니 얘기 잡아 넘버 망고고 아니 sem쟁이 된 탐제 타이바 탐제 아니 루트바 쇼 유위켄 주바 쇼 말은 되게 요래서
May I be constantly their source of livelihood until they pass beyond all sorrow. In short, then, just as the four great elements are, and all of space itself, just as in the presentation of offerings, there are many forms offerings may take. So then for all sentient beings in cyclic existence, may I take on all these many forms so that the every wish of every sentient being with no end is fulfilled, and I am cause for its fulfillment.
Oh yeah, that in the order is 유이단. 근데 유이단 뒤 체범에는 마스터 샘도 심쟁이 된치야 돼. 아니 뒤 유가시를 저 유가시를 맞춰버들 많이 봐. 뒤찍을 저 뒤찍을 맞춰버들 많이 봐. 뒤도 유가와를 유가 있는 뒤가도 유가 있나야? 아니 심쟁이 된 그런 갈래 고스도 내 간에 저번에 함지 아니 심쟁이 된 주비 줄어도 없는 마스 sabject 자와디 대신 난가 타도베 심쟁 컴만 뭐 심쟁 컴라서 남군도 함지 양엔 다바도 다기 녀수 유량 쇼 소디 따되고.
Next follows the aspiration to uninterruptedness in time and place, so that there be no interruption, so that there be no break in one's activities, fulfilling the wishes of sentient beings. Verse 22. Thus, for everything that lives, as far as are the limits of the sky, may I constantly be their source of livelihood until they pass beyond all sorrow. So at all times and all places.
뭐야, 나 간다 된다 너도리 대신 대신 강도 시험을 해나신 아니 난가 타도 난가들은 타 내가 야천부터 가서 요래 아니 내 타요 말은 세요 말 왔어 왜 야쳐와 아니 왜 유ring 와도 여러 어디나지 아니 심지에 탐지 심지에 컴 나바 망보여봐 야침보여봐 유 망보여봐 되게 탐지 양간에 때문에 산지 고마마 토지 봐도 아니 다기 아니 심지에 얘다 탐지기 아니 다 예수 가야매 봐서 강다 강 되어봐 강다 수수 강 되어봐 탐지 아니 주베 줄을 더 쇼스만 잡여래 손으로.
And thus, for everything that lives as far as are the limits of the sky. In short, then, in these lines, space itself, which is limitless and has no bound, it is vast, it is extensive. May I constantly be their source of livelihood until they pass beyond sorrow, until all sentient beings achieve nirvana, whatever their wish, may I be cause for the fulfillment of that wish in all of space.
oi ta dinema kare lusu ba kare level na gola yala du abo ye yu cho so ba yala du 아니 단다 디 모에 타마 모에 루 단다 디 버도 또 모에 루 차데 요레스 그래서 모에 루 버도 차다 디네 산이 디 타마디 가르산 되는마 타마디 아니 장주 쓰고 더 뭔가 무시데 차데 요레스 무시데 차데 요레 디 땅무시 될사 아니 산이 들다 자만 시유지스 아니 다데 너도 다 간다 아나도 뭐 너는 다 지당 냠매 지당다 아니 동랭이 냠매 지당 벌다 세시 망체 되나 주 차례스 아니요 주주야 그 마세바도 도바이나 너도 데스게 아마 셰레다나 세르도 그래서.
In chapter 3, we begin with the 7-branch offering involved in the accumulations, and 7th of these branches is dedication. So we have looked at verses about dedication, and this is followed by the actual taking hold of Bodhicitta that follows. So as we have presented dedication, then within this dedication has been the practice too of exchanging and equalizing self and others, and thought transformation. It's all mostly contained here in this dedication. Now, anything that remains unclear to you, we can use our Q&A to clarify. And if we use the Q&A in this way, it's constructive, I think. So if you have any doubts, then let's discuss it and think in as open-minded a way as we are able. So if you've got a question, let's hear it. No questions?
ngala 강에 많이 ngala 직직 토바쇼 뭐는 가르치면 랑 대화토 그냥 잡아러 왔어 이거 토바쇼 전부 열어 왔어 나 단다 로디 빼파 유 다시엔라 토바쇼 내 지교도 고시엔라 토바쇼 나 뭐고 시엔라 고스만 올라도 좀 올라다 로 맞잖아 좀 가고요 이나 로 찍고 니 겁나 공부 찍대 뭐 있나 아니 뭐 용마토가 되게 말해서
So the topic here is unfamiliar, and the dedications are challenging because we are overly familiar with self-interested, self-occupied thoughts, so that when we hear a series of just the opposite, their antidote, the wish for all good and all service to be experienced by others, the withdrawal or the divestment from personal self-interest, we are very familiar with this thought process, so it seems implausible. And though that is true, as we repeatedly practice this new outlook, it will grow more familiar for us, and easier, more comprehensible.
Oh, yeah, that Malando, Kanda, Suzuki, Kulunga, Joak, Tona, Kazuki, Tor, Pagi, Kulunga, Joak, Kazu, Chimbuche, Tinanshi, Digi Jebuchemate, Jebudela, Chiller, Shukchiller, Yachiller, the Urin, Chebashirachipo,
And by the force of the motivation, the intention, and then the actual action, by the force of that intensity, then later it will yield a correspondingly great result with its own intensity. So by the virtue of the force of the intention and the actual action undertaken, the results too will make themselves increasingly evident.
Oh, yeah, they got on the Melam Peguin and Melan Jedus among us, and I Mana show, I to Kiwu Yong shows, Lana, said Dilla, Usul Mana, said the Kiwu Chonsona, Melam de Tondado, get said in the Zos Harris. That in it said Chima, my bed, Niasondo Majiva show, said Chima Pay in the Yahu Yong show, but Mulu never shows the Melam Java, Tijana, and said Chima Niasondo Maji Miluto, and in Miluto, and so long Yakurasana, and the Melody to that dead orders. That in a season and Tarver Toba shows, and Taba Tosa to go dead orders. But on the Chanjus and the Molam Dizu, Adam Nagal Tamil Naji, Molam de Tamona Tamil is Jabshire, Yabu Jebu de la Tamil, Zoyam was or did Kever your response.
Now, in self-interest, when we wish to personally avoid illness, personally experience happiness, and the focus is on this life alone, then when one is free of illness in this life, when one is content, then the bounds of one's wishes have been exhausted. And similarly, then when one wishes to, in future lives, avoid unfortunate rebirths and to inherit a precious human rebirth, when one does avoid an unfortunate rebirth and does retrieve a human rebirth, then that intention, that aspiration has been exhausted. And similarly, when one wishes for moksha, liberation, and achieves liberation, then that wish is exhausted. But when one's scope is all sentient beings that are boundless and innumerable, and when one's investment is in them and wishes in them, then there's no exhausting the wish. And when there's no exhausting the wish, then the result too will be inexhaustible.
Oh, yeah, that's sort of Chinjuji Manamana, who muted Chinjuji, so that says things that are muted, so that Chambu in the muted, but Jujala, Joanna, Tunga, but Tabu, Jachambu, or Nashigua, Suzu, the Kulum, the Ton, Tomon, and Melam Jalan, Chabalon, Jima Tributed, the Jachalu, Toga.
This is similar to a small production, a small factory that produces very little and has no great objective in producing very much, versus a factory that whose production is very great and produces all sorts of items. It will be in operation producing all sorts of items indefinitely. Now, here with the proper intention, with a dedication and investment that is very great, then the productiveness is very great.
And it is Marathon. Sure, yeah, that's so.
I have a first question is, I missed something. When Krishna talk about generosity, he mentioned three things: one's body, one's resources, and what's the third thing?
Those are one's body, resources, and accumulated roots of virtue, which include virtuous activities of past, those ongoing in the present, and those that will be engaged in the future. These are the three. the virtues personally accumulated and the virtues accumulated by others, both may be dedicated in this way.
My second question is, it's all these poems, these verses, it's Santaviva write this as an aspiration prayer, or did he write this as an instruction to us as to how to become a bodhisattva?
그래서 내 직제 이 아니 시와라기 제베 직제 된속이 미규 가르레 소소기 마음 받은 줄 안에 용어로 안에 뭐바지는 말하는 말람 갸바 참르베 야메나 아니 람든 칼로 아니 체야 되는 저베 미심바 아니 장주 심베 쳐버 하고 있지도 그러베 안스
뭐가 무슨 거예요? 대단하다 네 가래스나 나 먼저 장주선배 쪄버려 장주선배 면허 자단이 어디로 갔어? 면허 자단 가서 주주디 시에서 대보친도 면허 자단 장주선배 때문에 지역에 또 차려서 아 잡니 가르쳐 버서 잡에 디 면허 잡에 아니 가르쳐 계산치 총지 잡에 계산치 잡으러 된다시 면허 잡아야 돼 아니 랑기 마음바디 야고 용해디 나는 내게 요로스 제가 랑기 마음바 야고 소야기 탑람나 너는 되고 잡니다 지만 마음바 용해 가르스나 아니 지금 랑기 대화 랑라 대화처럼 또 시행라 대화처럼 제 투이 고방 산지 고방스기 무엇인 거지 무엇인 거 보는데 도배에 이거 랑기 이지 뭐 봐지 네 도배가 된다 아니 너는 되게 되게 그래서
This is a very important question. The prayer itself, the manner of the text itself is to be the very model of the way the Mahayana prayer is made. Praying so, the result, as one always intends for a result in the end, just as one engages in some business, one entrepreneurship, some profit in the end, in the same way it is with that objective, with an objective. And the objective is, in the future, for all sentient beings, oneself included, to know the contentment of the state of Buddhahood. So then here, in the Mahayana prayer here, aspiration to introduce the realizability of Buddhahood to us in these verses.
송바친 뭐지? 송바친 뭐이나? 또 송견의 계산 이어받고 신경이나 아니 송도 겹쳐서 뭐 잡그래. 겹쳐 갈래요네 개그래. 아니 답시 가려는 시기로 왔어. 베트나시 랑기 대화다 동행성이 방법하고 모신. 아니 모신은 대화도 가르치면 대화도 요구요구 쉐바. 대화도 여봐 이체바. 쉐바 있나? 아니 대화도 요 답시 시기로 왔어. 어디나시 다당어도 다다 도도 가르스는 대화 두고 규제다. 규제 대화도 대화 되봐 동행 믿어봐. 랑 대화 되봐 동행 믿어봐. 특별하지 셴 동행 되봐 동행 믿어봐 대화 되봐디 둘째이봐. 근데 삼았다 딱 두개 탑시 가지고 그래서 다 탑시 되게 돼서 제 계획으로 해서 여기서
An entrepreneur engages in their project with the sight of future profits. And when they've established their business model, then they will go ahead and do whatever it takes to get it on its feet, because they have projected that there'll be some profit that comes from it, from success in the business. And so it is to show the result, the realizable result of the profit that comes from these practices. And the premise is that one wishes to experience contentment and wishes to avoid discontents. And one comes to find out how one will achieve contentment and develops a faith in the means for coming by that contentment. And when one has faith and confidence in the contentment to come, then one will pursue it however one must. And so as one recognizes that each one oneself avoids dissatisfaction, seeks out satisfaction, and then can extrapolate that to all others too, based upon themselves, then we have here the premise for the great result that comes. And this is to introduce us to the realizability of that great result.
미제 탈라 기부 영화지도 셋매를 기부 영화지도 셋대를 깔래지로 제가 셋치마 기부 영화지도 셋대를 깔래지고 이게 강가 가르스는데 수수비 셋치마 기부대 수수 기부대 미제 로제마 기부대 수수 기부로 와서 담았다 그래서 간다 삼로 인생 삼로 땅전 랑 로제마 기부 고연에 랑 두고로 와 기부 여바대 수수 기부로 와 옛날에 미지 로지마 수수 세주주 베다 셋멜 기부 중나야 수수 기부 중으로 와 옛날에 세치마 기부 중데 수수 기부 중하고는 미시발 기부 중하게 말아 그래서 수수가 미지 야보도 수수를 개요 와 그래서 수수 세치마 야보도 수수를 개요 제가 야보 고위에다 다 나가 되다 내가 되게 제 되랬다 리시자고 해서
And this is no different than the way in which when one wishes for well-being in later in middle life, in their later life or during the middle of their life, then in adolescence, then in their youth, a person will strive to ensure that the future has what they wish for them. And then later, when they're middle-aged, and then later when they're older, insofar as they anticipated their middle age and their later life and acted accordingly, then they themselves will experience the benefits of having anticipated their middle age and their later life and enjoy the results of the work they did in anticipation for that. And in the same way, when one anticipates the life to come and acts in such a way to ensure that there be contentment in lives to come, then it's no different person who later in lives to come enjoys the results of that. Oneself enjoys what one has achieved by anticipating what is to come and preparing and acting accordingly. It's not another person who experiences the results. And so then, because what comes, for whatever it is that comes, oneself is responsible, then when what one wishes for is just this described by Shantideva, then how one should behave now to ensure it, what one should do presently to ensure it, this is the topic of these aspirational verses. The continuity from the past person who did whatever they did in the past to the present person experiencing whatever the result is, experiencing whatever is the present experience, to the person who experiences what is to come, is one continuity. And we say, yesterday I ate this delicious meal and enjoyed it, and then now you enjoy a pleasant meal, and then you anticipate a pleasant meal to come. It's no different, a past life and whatever the experiences were, positive and negative, and in the present life with the experiences, pleasant and unpleasant, which cannot be very much changed, but then anticipating contentment and discontent in one's future, the question rests solely on one's decision-making in the present, whether they will ensure that they experience contentment in the future or further discontent in the future. The prospect of achieving personal contentment, prospect of thoroughly eliminating discontents for oneself is determined by, decided by, however far one is able to give to others contentment and dispel for others discontents. And all the verses of aspiration in the way of the Bodhisattva, many as they are pointing outwards to others, to scrutinize others, but are inward looking to find where oneself measures up, what one is experiencing, what one is amounting to.
What is the quarter several charts on that?
But did that bring any clarity? Did that clarify?
Yeah, I know. Multi.
Thank you. So, tax time is just closing, coming to an end. And I'd like to use the practice to see the IRS and the franchise tax board not feel like a slave. How can we use the practice to see these bodies differently, given that sometimes our collective work and money put into taxes is used well and other times is abused?
Also, ushung la che gitu babswa. Ane ushung de la ni ngumang tang gro che mang che gro. Denzo la ni karisa kondro denzo la kondro malang che. Kunzema che 이 따때 우숑기 아니 뭐 루루존에 조성 당기로 아니 삼삼라 아니 전다 야포치라 아니 당기요레 삼삼 아니 독차치라 당기요레 나 아니 우숑라 데 짐베 냠렌다 제와자네 간데스 냠렌 치그레
대여스다. 하다는 거 물론 제대로 선제 탐지에서 선제 네 빈자 네 조공할 가마게 스마시 선제 탐제가 진바땅화데 진바가 초이 주주도 얘기가 통하스 옛날시지 저랑 꼴른 것도 아니고 뭐 제가 되게 아니 지금 제예 맞아버는데 아나 때나 처음에도 좀 되지 말고 삼아이나 아니 그 수수도 세나다 제 차으로 왔어요. 다들 샘지가 전달을 이제 수수 꼴른이야 뭐제 꿀ung도 야보죠. 내가 하는 체제버데 다 수수기 가게 집었다게 냠내 지기 유선 꿀ung 들지 봤죠. 아니 대박에 때들라 로 장마치는 때샤바이나 이 집에 그냥 덕을 해서
It's a useful question because when we give generously to family and friends, this is a limited form of generosity. The very best form is the indiscriminate generosity that gives unfalteringly to one and all without any possessiveness And so then for you, available is the practice of giving to all without any possessiveness. When you adjust your intention so that, though you may well think with reason that you would prefer not to give the taxes, that you see that the taxes aren't being used in a worthwhile way, if you fixate on these points, then you'll pay your taxes, but there'll be possessiveness. You won't give without reservation. You will have your reservations, which will hinder the practice of generosity itself from being the very most constructive form of generosity. So as you adjust your intention at the outset, adjust it in the best way that you are able. And then once you have established that motivation, then give without reservation, pay your taxes without reservation.
지난 간다 지봉고스는 맨션 저 단계 도와서 나는 아주 지금부터 로자 냐면 계셔 아무로도 직접 장사나 아니 지금부터 배치는 파 그거만 찍게 데모 투야 들려야 그거 내가 선바 장들 숙심부 차요 알았어 그래서 나는 로장사 로장사도 지봉고 다야 걸로 계시고 뭐 로장 선망 때 뭐도 땅 뭐도는 선망 거 장사나 아니 그 니마지 그랑 미버실에 땅 투에 이거 얘기를 어디서 봐 아니 지금 마당스네 땅이 차로 그래서 직세 다 단다 저랑 단다 저 땅에 된 변했다 당분은 수수로 때 땅에 장사에나 아니 그 땅주 강에 매가 제가 되나시다 수수 집었 단다 흉부 충부도 있나다 마테나니야 수수 되게 맞대 보라 되도서 뭐 꾸는 상고직 잡아 있나 아니 수수로 집었 땅에 냠내기 표현지 더 아니 집에기 냠내기 표현지 받을 때는 수술이야 네 손놈 싸네야 지금 모두 전부 도와야 요래 아니 나는 루이나 동해시에 요래 뒤 게임만 뭐 요래 손지
The transformation of one's attitude is the practice in which we are engaged, and it is to exercise one's thought process so that one comes to be able to give, actually practice generosity, actually without any reservation at all, to the point where one is impatient to be called to give and cannot wait for the opportunity to make the sacrifice and to give generously. This is the training to that end, where there isn't yet the power to do that, the ability to do that. One exercises one's liberal spirit so that one comes to be able to do that. And time comes when one might be told not to give, but one must give at that moment, nevertheless. And when that moment has come, then one will have no actual difficulty giving generously in any event, however one might give. Now, when it's punishable when you fail to pay taxes, then you must pay taxes. But the moment when you do pay taxes may be made into a moment of thought transformation so that later on you are able to give and practice generosity without any reservation at all and be spontaneously inclined to do so. And when that time comes, then you will experience great siddhi, great returns for being able to do that, such that hardship that you face personally, physically, and the rest are also eliminated.
한번 집었다 왔을 때는 제부 표현 가리려 봐도 나는 통화 그러니까 그냥 요마디 통화 제일 다 너는 냠내치기 요래스 베나스 차랑 다다 뭔가 디나라래 소소베 라와 요바 대노롱 줄을 그 삼각강에 매봐 아니 대 가게 간다를 소소고 루이상와 대노롱 줄 그런 써봐 라와 요바 되게 강갈로 세마마 집었다 제부 때는 다른 롱줄이 좀 와서 거기 그 메카시스 도시 잡고야. 내 글로고야 내가 사야 내가 동야 내가 차고 들으시 와도 생각만 집안마다 산나세요. 저부터 죽어버렸어. 제가 그 세네기 지부 가리면 집에 지부 가리면 저부터 통화 아니 그들을 라벨 깔려요 말하지.
When one is made to see the results that follow from an activity, then seeing those results, participating in the causes for those results becomes easier. Now, when we find ourselves in a country where there is freedom and there is wealth to be gained, and we are physically well, have a human body, plenty of resources and autonomy, then we may recognize that this has followed from our own practices in the past of generosity. And so now we have come to inherit these resources. There are others who are facing famine, who have no clothes, who die of cold, and these are inheritance of grasping and possessiveness. So when we see the results that come from activities, then we find it easier to engage in those activities when the results are constructive as we see them. And this human body that you have inherited is a result of ethical discipline. And all of one's faculties and the rest being intact and ready and usable for you, that is the result of the practice of patience. That you have an enthusiasm and an interest in practicing virtue, this is the result of your own energetic discipline in the past. And your capacity, and your capacity for meditation and investigation of emptiness, the examination of phenomena, your mental concentration, these are the result of samadhi as you practiced in the past. And wisdom, not very different from mental concentration, is the capacity for discriminating between wholesome and unwholesome, between that which is positive and negative. This capacity for discrimination is the inheritance of wisdom practiced in the past. Finding what we do inherit in the present and rejoicing in the virtuous causes for that is an important practice, and the recognition that not used well, then negative results will come to pass in our future, but used well, then favorable results will come to pass. This recognition too should be rejoiced in, and so we dedicate this lesson in this way. So I think perhaps that answered your question. So we're going to recite our closing prayers. Dharma sumbe zero kuyuyang jande yangi sewe jeso yebe rimba kuysang tamje sho yene gobe gena yeje sho rangi shishin tobe lamji ne shoja sewe jawe tabye ye
Rowe Yigi Mumba Senjine, Gawe Temba Yure Senkyu. Temba Reje Shogi Majaba, Jaja Nyamba Yure Chumterine. Nije Chembu Yiram Chemba Yi, Pende Tenje Sawara Chemba Sho. Seje Gawe Menjung Chile, Lejo Chanju Lamje Rinde Kyang. Tade Namji Yeba Bede, Gawe Zeba Rindu Kyong Yuruchi. Lanzan Rube Dungen Doje, Yegen Seje Medan Mimin. Tera Kundu Gawe Mapa Yi, Namda Landan Rewar Magiruchi. Kanze Deba Joga Chujuche, Suje Dula Tsuma Deite. Tode Nange Tadu Roche, Tashi Gyatso Chugun Gyagyoji.
Page 13. From my two collections, vast is space that I have amassed from working with effort at this practice for a great length of time. May I become the chief leading Buddha for all those whose mind's wisdom eye is blinded by ignorance. Even if I do not reach this state, may I be held in your loving compassion for all my lives, Manjushri. May I find the best of the paths of the complete teachings, and may I please all the Buddhas by practicing. Using skillful means drawn by the strong force of compassion, may I clear the darkness from the minds of all beings with the points of the path as I have discerned them. May I uphold Buddha's teachings for a very long time. With my heart going out with great compassion, in whatever direction the most precious teachings have not yet spread or once spread have declined, may I offer the treasure of happiness to aid all sentient beings. May the minds of those who wish for liberation be granted bounteous space, and the Buddha's deeds be nourished for a long time by following the complete graduated path to enlightenment and the wondrous virtuous conduct of the Buddhas and their sons. May all human and non-human beings that eliminate adversity and make things conducive for practicing the excellent paths never be parted in any of their lives from the purest path praised by the Buddhas. Whenever someone makes effort to act in accordance with the tenfold Mahayana virtuous practices, may he always be assisted by my mighty ones, and may oceans of prosperity spread everywhere. I dedicate whatever virtues I've ever collected for the benefit of the teachings and of sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of Venerable Losang Drapa to shine forever. In the land encircled by snowy mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good, all-powerful Shinras and Tenzin Gyatso. Please remain until cyclic existence is ended. Just as the brave Manjushri and Samantabhadra do, realize things as they are. Also, I dedicate all these merits in the best way, that I may follow their perfect example. I dedicate all these roots of virtue with the dedication praised as the best by the victorious thus gone ones of the three times, so that I might perform the noble Bodhisattva's deeds. May the supreme jewel Bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. Okay, good night, everybody. Then each day there is the opportunity to practice generosity.